Hello, welcome. My name is Caroline Allen. I'm your official 2021 tarot reader. I'm going to do a reading for us for the year of 2021. Happy New Year. I'm in my yurt art studio in the woods in rural Oregon, surrounded by trees, surrounded by art. I've lit my altar. I've called in all of the guides to provide a reading that is the most helpful to the most people. And before I start, I just wanted to talk a little about what's happening in the world. So I get a lot of clients, a lot of tarot clients. I'm a metaphysical coach, a book coach, a novelist. As a metaphysical coach, I've been getting a lot of readings with my book coaching clients. I've been talking about this as well. It really is a time for all of us to go in and clean up our houses. And I don't mean our physical house. I don't mean scrubbing the floor. I mean spiritually and emotionally do healing on ourselves. This is super important right now. So I get a lot of calls for readings where people are really struggling financially. We know this, right? With the isolation, with forest fires, with the threat of what the future holds. And the truth is, we really are entering what I call a Super Mario phase. And what I mean by that is jump, skip, leap, stop, turn. We have to be able to adapt. We have to be able to be flexible. We have to be able to take on things as they are, not as we wish them to be. So that's the issue I'm seeing again and again. It should be this, it should be that. Well, it isn't. And it's not going to be, it's just not going to be going forward. We have to stay with the isness of things. And what I mean by that, being able to be present with what is. Now, what happens when we do this a lot of times is our very personal, emotional scars start to get triggered. And we actually find it very difficult to adapt to what is because of unhealed parts of ourselves. So especially for the other coaches and healers, I'm just adamant about this, that we need to be doing really a great deal of focus on our own personal healing. But it's true for everyone to be able to make it through what's coming and what is already here. We really need to be as clear and honest and authentic as possible. And that takes every one of us. I do my own personal healing. I'm adamant about that. And that's not just doing spiritual work. It's also doing whatever sort of personal psychotherapeutic work works for you. There's so many books out there. So for example, just reading self-help books on adapting, reading self-help books on rewiring your brain. There's so many good neurologically, scientifically based books out there right now. So many. If you can't afford to actually hire someone to see them. So that was one of my biggest messages about what, no matter what our reading says today, and I haven't done the reading, I'm going to be doing it with you. It's going to be as big of a surprise to me as it is to you. But that I'm seeing as I read for so many people is our absolute need to do personal healing. If it's around food, start reading books around healing yourself around food. Don't expect it to happen overnight, but once you start, get the ball rolling. Healing around your relationship with money, right? A lot of people have issues with that. Healing around issues with relationships, personal relationships. So that is the biggest message I've been getting with helping people right now. So the other thing I wanted to talk about was we are going through a spiritual awakening, collective spiritual awakening. And that almost always starts with depression and anxiety, because what we expected, what we thought would happen with our lives isn't going to happen. That's okay. That's okay. It's okay that it's not going to happen the way we thought. But what we have to do is be able to understand, what is this spiritual awakening that's happening? what is this depression and anxiety? What am I supposed to do about it besides your personal healing? What is the path? So some of us, and I know some of the people because I've book coached them and they're my friends, had this awakening personally before this major collective awakening that's happening 20 to 30 years ago. And I was one of those people. I was a journalist in Tokyo and London, an expat, and I had this massive spiritual calling and awakening, and it started as severe depression. And so basically, I was called during this time of trying to figure out what the hell was going on and what I was supposed to do with my life. In the middle of the night, I got a spiritual download for some writing novels. And the novels, basically the whole point of them is they're showing you, here they are, earth, air, fire, water is the most recent one. So basically, they show you what the path looks like to go from the dark into the light of spiritual awakening and the ups and downs of it. And I was called to write these novels to help with this whole process. Little did I mean, I knew 20 years ago where we were headed. That was part of the spiritual download. So we're here now. Little did I know in 2020 we would be there, right? We've arrived at the place of why I was called to write these books. So I would also just recommend, if you need guidance, they are hidden in the poetry of the novels. Not so hidden sometimes. Okay, so thank you for that. And we're going to start the 2021 tarot reading now. And I've already had my altar lit, and I've already called in my guides for this reading. And I'm going to mix the cards and ask the guides to be present. And what I'd like to do is just ask the guides to work through me and speak through me, and that anyone who ends up listening to this video on YouTube, on social media, that your guides are being called into at this moment. Because I do believe in that kind of connection, that even now your guides know that you're going to be listening to this. And so they're going to enter the process for your greatest and highest good. Okay, this is the Visconti Sforza deck that I use. I got it the day after 9/11, 2001. 19 years I've had this deck, and they are falling apart, and I love them. I love them. They're like crumbly old European or Eastern European buildings. Okay, for the greatest and highest good, we ask that, okay, one popped out, so we're going to start with that one. We ask that the guides appear and speak to us. What do we need to know in 2021? For anyone listening to this, for the greatest and highest good. And from a higher place than just our personal needs and expectations, right? We want to think of this personally and collectively. You know what? I'm going to stop a second, because that was an important message last night that I was thinking. There are levels of aligning with your spiritual awakening. One is the personal healing you have to do that we talked about already. Another is understanding that we're connecting to the larger community of people and animals and plants and oceans. So there's personal, there's the collective, but then there's the higher spiritual connection. So we're asking for all three in alignment, and that's why we start personally with ourselves, to make ourselves a kind of clean vessel for that connection. So as I'm doing this reading, I'm really asking that not just personal information, but global information appear, and also spiritual, from a higher vibrational plane than the world that we live in. Okay, for the greatest and highest good, we're at 9 minutes already, so I don't want this video to go too long. So we're going to ask the spirit guides for the greatest and highest good. What do we need to know right now in 2021 for our greatest and highest good and the greatest and highest good of the planet? Here we go. Okay, I'm throwing the cards. I use a traditional Celtic cross spread. Okay, so Yay. Okay. So it does say that, again, it starts with our personal healing. It's interesting that I started this message with that because this is really what this reading is about. It's really hard to say, to create the healing we need for the planet when we're not healed. Okay, so I see a lot of people complaining about this politician or that institution, and really it starts with you. So you can complain about all of the pollution and hurting Mother Earth, but look at where you're hurting Mother Earth. Look at what you're doing personally in your daily life that needs to change. And that's the biggest message of the entire reading. So, I drive a gas car. I don't drive it very much, once a week, maybe, twice a week, maybe, but nonetheless, I drive a gas car. So I'm part of the thing that needs to change, if you see what I mean. So just look at every habit that you have and see if it's in alignment with your values about healing the planet. Okay? So I'm going to go through this reading. It's saying that each individual listening to this and each individual not listening to this is a powerful creative force. And when we do our healing, we're able to access that creativity, and that creativity truly is the answer to the destruction that's happening. And this is us, and she's reversed. So she's the Queen of Wands. Anyway, she represents our divine feminine creative force. And we want to be able to access all of that creativity so that we have creative solutions to the Super Mario phase, personally and for other people. Do you see what I'm saying? And that requires us really doing our personal work. The challenge card is self-esteem. This is our self-esteem. We all really need genuine, authentic self-esteem, and that comes from loving yourself, authentically loving yourself. It has been something I have been working on for years, just truly loving who I am. And from that can spring so much that I have to give to myself and to the world. And it springs from love of self, springs my love of the planet and my desire to protect it, if you see what I mean. So work on self-esteem. They're talking about how don't force peace on yourself. So I'm noticing a lot of people going, I will force this peace and pretend to be peaceful. Your rage is valid. Your anger is valid. We just want you to work with it in a constructive, healing, creative way, okay? So the other thing it's saying is the drinking and the boozing and the yucking it up. It's just not working, and you know it's not working, and you need to cut back or stop. Okay, that's just telling me exactly what to say. like boom, boom. So the other thing is this is ancestral healing as well. So going back in your timeline of your ancestors, and that will be part of the personal healing. So the more personal healing you do, the more it will draw in the healing of your ancestors. So even if you want to Google doing ancestral healing work, there are things like past life regressions that I do and love. There are things like one person I was talking to was doing this tremendous genealogy, and from it was writing, and from it was becoming ancestral healing. So it's talking about unlocking our creativity by going inside and doing our healing. So about cleaning up your house, looking at your habits for drinking and eating. It's also talking about food, cleaning up your habits so that you're more of a clear vessel to be able to do the healing that you're being asked to do. And don't expect to find the perfect group of like-minded people, because personal healing, and I have a few clients who are therapists, and I've talked to them about this. These are book clients. When you do your personal healing, sometimes you have to individuate and disconnect from groups, because your personal healing can be very unique to you. So another message it's saying is, don't expect the groups to follow you and be with you and be the perfect place for you to do your healing. Sometimes they can, but let go of the expectations. The biggest thing we're being asked to do now is to stay with what is, not what should be. That's the biggest problem people are having. Well, we shouldn't have a pandemic. Well, we do. We shouldn't have this. We do. Stay with what is, and you can be much more help to people when you're staying with what is. It's like my friend is sick and she's in bed and I'm like, you shouldn't be sick, but she is. She needs help. If I'm in, she shouldn't be. This is a metaphor, this isn't a true story. If I'm in my head that she shouldn't be sick, I'm not helping her and she needs help. Do you see what I'm saying? Stay with what is. Eckhart Tolle's The Power of Now is a good book if you need to come back in line with what is. I've read it about 3 times. It was only on the 3rd time that it went click. So I want to recommend that. It just wants you to know that over the next few months, there's still going to be some chaos with the transition politically in the States. So it's not going to be terrible, but it's going to be there. Hold your nerve. Remain strong. Look at your own healing. This too shall pass. But the transition itself seems to create a pushback. There will be a bit of a pushback. And that means you may get rudenesses. You may see things on social media that scare you. Again, hold your nerve. Work on strengthening yourself. The joy of the healing work. For anybody who's known me for years, you know the shift that can happen when you do you've seen it in me. You will get much stronger. Things won't throw you as much if you do your personal healing work. But it does want you to know that in 2021, we are going to see much more justice prevailing. And we're going to feel very good about that as the months go on. Into the 6th and 7th month of 2021, we're going to be feeling like, yes, there is justice in the world. Justice is going to start prevailing more and more. Okay, so the biggest message then with the next card is the Lover's card. This is the Lover's card, and it was reversed. And the message I got from that is the only way, you're being blown about by external circumstances. Oh no, this happened. Oh no, that happened. Oh no, that person said that. Oh no, I saw this on social media. You're like being blown around like a leaf in the autumn, right? During a windstorm. And that's going to continue unless you do real commitment to yourself, real commitment to this healing path, and you make it a daily, weekly, monthly process. No matter what, without that healing, you won't be stable enough to not be bashed around emotionally. And none of us deserve that. You have the inner strength. You have it. I know, I know you do. Sorry, the incense getting to me. You know you do. You have it. We need you. Work on it. Getting that stability, internal stability. Final card is the sun comes out. The sun will come out tomorrow. I better stop singing now. The sun card. And so it's basically saying that things really are going to turn around, and I'm getting like August, September especially. And of course, this has to do with the vaccine and coming out from under the pandemic and being able to do more of the things we love externally. So I don't want to in any way do anything but revel in the joy of the sun. Woohoo, the sun! Yes, baby. Okay, so that's our reading for 2021. To recap, we need your creative force. We need you to be stable and strong in your center. Please do your personal healing. Work on your self-esteem. Do ancestral work. Work on your creativity. Don't necessarily, if you don't find groups where you can do the healing, that's okay. Sometimes doing your personal healing requires isolation. And the joy of that for where we're at, and I say joy because I really believe that as a global community, is that we're actually all being forced into looking at ourselves. And this has always been the first stage of personal, true spiritual awakening for anybody I've known. It's that they lose a job or they get divorced and they're isolated. They kind of lose everything. They lose everything. I lost everything. And from that, you rebuild yourself. And you can rebuild yourself from what you really want and not what society says you should want. So we're giving this beautiful time. We have a few more months of it to really go inside and do our personal healing. And then the end, we get the sun, da 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 da, la 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 la, and justice. The sun and justice. What a wonderful endings to this reading for 2021. Okay, thank you guys so much. My website is carolineallen.com. My novels are there, my art. And I give one-on-one readings. So big blessings for 2021. Big hugs and kisses. Bye-bye.